I'm gonna walk in the truth. Say what you want and do what you do. I'm gonna walk in the truth. And talk your mess while I confess. I'm gonna walk in the truth. Say what you want, do what you do. I'm gonna walk in the truth. It don't matter no way, 'cause this is a new day. I'm gonna walk in the truth. Yeah, I'm gonna walk in the truth.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope you had time to just sit back and ponder, what do I have, what do I take pleasure in based on those that are doing these things which cause us to be separated from Yahuwah Elohim. Hopefully you have time to do that, and that itself has baraked you to be able to say, man, I really got to begin to separate myself more from what I'm seeing and what I'm listening to. And even we know that there are things that we eat which offends our king, because it offends our Father, and maybe we need to take time to look at that and see, how can I change myself as well? How can I continue to move on this path of separation? So let's continue on back into this part 1 of the Order series, about the part about division, that Yahuwah did not come to divide, but that's the lie. So let's continue on with that. Let's start out with when he talks about more into this division, separation. Many are called, but few are chosen. Let's start with Matthew 22, MaTaThiYaHuW, chapter 22, verses 1 through 14. And YaHuWShuWA answered and spake unto them by parables, and saying, remember, these are riddles, these are parables. Remember, I talked about it earlier. These are riddles, these are almost like proverbs, these are almost like MaShaH. Right? So pay attention to here. And said, the kingdom of the ShaMaH is like unto a certain king, which made a marriage for his son, and sent forth his servants to call them that were bidden to the wedding, and they would not come. See, this is the rejection of the ABaRiY people. So this one that said bid them to come, he said this was the first chosen, which was the Yahudah, the ABaRiY people. But they rejected. Here's what it says in verse 4. And again he sent forth other servants, saying, tell them which are bidden, behold, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatlings are killed, and all things are ready. Come unto the marriage. But they made light of it, and went their ways, one in his farm, another in his merchandise. And the remnant took his servants, and entreated them spitefully, and slew them. Doesn't this sound familiar? Right? Isn't this what happened to the prophets? Those that came to bring about Yahuwah's judgment? Right? Those that was his Malaks, his messengers? Isn't that what happened? They just killed them and entreated them and did them badly? Verse 7. Matthew 22, verse 7, continuing on. But when the king heard thereof, he was wroth, and he sent forth his armies, and destroyed those murderers, and burnt up their city. Then said he to his servants, the wedding is ready, but they which are bidden are not worthy. Go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as ye shall find, bid them to the marriage. Or bid to the marriage. So those servants went out into the highways, and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. See, the bad and the good, this is the harvest. Right? This is the harvest that was the calling unto the Gentiles. So they said, now I want you to go out to the Gentiles and invite them in. Right? And so this is both bad and good. This balances the word of what YaHuWShuWA said himself when he says, the well has no need of a physician. Because the Yahudims felt like they didn't need it. Right? They were the ones that was bid into the wedding but rejected it. So he says, both go invite both bad and good to the wedding. For they are now worthy to come in. Because now they have been invited. Let's look at verse 11. And when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there was a man which had not a wedding garment. And he said unto him, Friend, how comest thou in hither not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. So this part, I want you to know, speaks of the judgment of those who will stand before King YaHuWShuWA. Because you're going to stand before him knowing that you're not ready. Knowing that you did not come prepared. So what you're going to be is speechless. You're not going to be able to say anything. Because you did not come. Yet you were invited, but you did not come prepared. Then said the king to his servants, Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. See, this talks about those who did not come prepared with the QaDaSh Ruwach. You had a Ruwach in you, because there's a spirit that dwells in all of us. But was it the QaDaSh Ruwach? Is that what came to us? Was that the QaDaSh Ruwach? Verse 13, Then said the king to the servants, Bind him hand and foot, right? And take him away, cast him in the outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Verse 14, For many are called, but few are chosen. Many are called, and few are chosen. This is division. This is separation. This was demonstrated in the man that was invited but didn't come prepared. See, it's not the fact that people are not being invited. It's not the fact that people aren't given time to come to this marriage. Right? Because YaHuWShuWA is the groom and we are the bride. But then there are those that will come that will not be prepared. They will show up and not have on their wedding garment. Not that they weren't forewarned. This is what you got to understand. Not that they were not forewarned. Because they were forewarned. Let's begin to look at some more of this division that has taken place. Because what I want you to do is, once we're done with part one, I want you to have a true understanding of this division. I want you to be able to then go back to those that said that YaHuWah will not divide families or friends or all this. Be able to stand firm and say, yes, he will. And he has. And this is how it's shown. And oh, by the way, let me direct you to the scriptures that actually tells you that this has happened so that you don't think I'm being judgmental, so that you don't think I'm bringing my own righteousness. I'm just giving you that which was written, the word. Let's look at Genesis 12, verses 1 through 6. Genesis 12, verses 1 through 6. We're going to talk about ABrAM at the time, before he became Abraham. Now YaHuWah has said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. Right off the bat, separation is taking place. Right off the bat, YaHuWah says, I need you to leave your father's house. So I need you to be separated. And I need you to go from your kindred, which is your offspring. So I need to leave your brothers and sisters, your family, right? I need you to leave all of them and go and leave your father's house into a land that I will show you. So already separation has happened. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will barak thee. Even though the word says blessed, it says I will barak thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing, which is a barakah. See, what we got to understand, a barakah comes when we allow ourselves to be separated from those who prevent us from doing Yahuwah's will. See, and let's be real. I myself had to make decisions that caused me to be separated. And that I will share with you at another time as I update my testimony. But what had happened is when you separate that, sadness does come in the beginning. Don't get me wrong. Because remember, our thoughts generates the emotion, which generates our actions. So when we begin to separate, we're beginning to change our thoughts. We're beginning to metamorphosize our mind, which means we are physically beginning to change how we think. And when we begin to physically change how we think, now our emotions change because our thought has changed. And because our emotions have changed, which then is aligned to our thought, our actions now shows that we are willing to be separated. And our separation then brings barakah into our lives. Verse 3, and I will barak them that barak thee, and I will curse them that curse thee, and in thee shall all families of them. So even those that barak you because you made a decision to separate will now be barak themselves. So it says, I will barak them that barak thee, and I will curse them that curse thee, and in thee shall all families of Yahuwah have given them. Thus did your fathers when I sent them from QaDaSh Barnea to the land, from when they went up unto the valley of a skull, and saw the land. They discouraged the mind of the children of Israel, and they should go into the land which Yahuwah had given them. And Yahuwah's anger was kindled the same time. Because what happened? They wanted to go about and begin to change themselves from what was going on. Give me a moment for a second here. Let me go to Genesis, verse 12, 1 through 6. I'm going to go back for a moment because I did at 3, right? And I will barak thee and barak thee and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be baraked. So I should have went to verse 4, so I'm going to back up for a minute and go to verse 4 because then I jumped to verse 8. So let me go back to verse 4 and then let me go to verse 8. So verse 4, so Abram departed as Yahuwah had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him, and Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. And Abraham took Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. So this is the part where he began to separate himself from his family, right? He obeyed Yahuwah. So when the word causes us to be separated, we have to obey Yahuwah. So this causes us to be able to remove ourselves from that separation because we were obedient unto Yahuwah. Let's go to Genesis 19. let's go to Genesis 19, verses 12 to 15, and then we're going to go to Genesis 19, verses 24 through 26. Let's go there for a moment. And the men, and this is, and let's talk about, so I already talked about Abram into Canaan. Let me back up for a minute, because that was a separation. Now let me get into another one when we talk about Lot. So Genesis 19, verses 12. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou any besides son-in-law, thy sons, thy daughters, and whomsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxen great before the face of YaHuWah. And YaHuWah has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake unto his son-in-laws, which married his daughters, and said, up, get you out of this place, for YaHuWah will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that was mocked unto his son-in-laws. So you can see that when he went unto, when Lot went unto his son-in-laws to warn them, they mocked him. You could probably imagine people, because sometimes even today, right? People look at you like you crazy. Like, what are you talking about? There's no way YaHuWah is going to destroy this city. Come on. This city? Really? He's not going to do that. And when the morning arose, the Molochs hastened Lot, saying, arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. What happened to the daughters' husbands? Right? Because we said wife and 2 daughters. What happened to the husbands? See, the Molochs weren't even worried about the husbands. This balance is where ABaRiY says, I'm no respecter of person. So what happened? What happened to the husbands? Then, let's go to verse 24. We're going to jump through 24. Then YaHuWah rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from YaHuWah out of the ShaMaH. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. Separation. He destroyed what was going on in Sodom and Gomorrah. Separation. The city was so bad, he had to destroy the whole city. He had to separate the whole entire city. 2 cities, Sodom and Gomorrah. Because they were so upsetting to YaHuWah, he destroyed the city. He says, I'm going to even separate it. And even the fact that even onto the ground, nothing grew. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Because why? They were warned not to look back. As you saw this come down, not to look back. And she looked back. And now what? Disobedience divided her from obedience. Which means she became a pillar of salt. She couldn't continue with Lot because she was disobedient. See, disobedience divides us. And when we were warned, here was a warning that was given. Do not look back. But she looked back and became a pillar of salt. Let's look at Noah again. So we're going to continue to focus on this division, because I really want you to get this. I really want you to grasp this. I really want you to understand this separation that we have to make. Because remember, when we separate ourselves, we are baraked when we do that. A barakah come upon us when we separate. Let's look at Noah and the flood. Let's look at Genesis 5:28 through 32. And Lamech lived 182 years and begot a son. And he called his name Noah, saying, This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toils of our hands, because of the ground which YaHuWaH hath cursed. And Lamech lived and begot Noah 595 years, and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech was 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old, and Noah begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham's actual name is Quam, which means burnt by the sun. That is important to be able to trace our Negro history back to the books. I just want you to know that. I gave you those first parts, Genesis 5:28 through 32, because I want you to understand that Noah had other brothers and sisters. But who went in the ark? And why were they the only ones that went in the ark? Let's talk about this. Here's how Noah's condition was described. Genesis 6:9 through 13. These are the generations of Noah. And Noah was a man perfect in his generation. And Noah walked with Elohim. So he was complete in his generation. Remember, perfect means complete. So he was complete in his generation. And the beauty part was, and Noah walked with Elohim. Because what happened? So this demonstrated that his actions and behaviors separated him from the others, including his other brothers and sisters. And Noah begot 3 sons, right? Shem, Quam, and Japheth. The earth also was corrupt before Elohim, and the earth was filled with violence. And Elohim looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. So what it said is all the flesh has corrupted his order upon the earth. So here again, he had an order. He had things that he wanted to happen, and now the flesh had corrupted it. Verse 13, and Elohim said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is feared with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. So who went in the ark? Genesis chapter 6, verse 18. But with thee will I establish my covenant, and thou shalt come into the ark, thou, means you, and thy sons, Ham, Quam, and Japheth, and thy son's wife. So we had Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their 3 wives. 8 people went into the ark that day. Division. Once again, division. And if we notice, once they went in the ark, and who had to seal it? YaHuWaH had to seal the door in the ark. There was people knocking and banging and stuff like that wanting to get in. See, he knew Noah's heart. But he says, no, they have already made their decision. Remember, our decision causes us to make a conscious separation of thought. So they had their thoughts separated from the thoughts of Noah. And so because of that, he said they have already made their decisions based on the lives they decided they wanted to live. So guess what? They don't get to come in the ark. And guess what? When we talk about families, we already talked about he had brothers and sisters. They didn't get into the ark. They did not make it. Once again, I want you to focus on what occurred. So we talked about Abram. Now we talked about Noah. Now let's go into MaShaH or Moses. Let's look at the book of Numbers, chapter 32, verses 1 through 13. Now the children of Reuben and the children of Gad had a very great multitude of cattle. And when they saw the land of Jazer, the land of Gilead, that behold, the place was a place of cattle. And the children of Gad and the children of Reuben came and spake unto MaShaH and unto Eleazar the priest, and said to the princes of the congregation, saying, Atoreth and Dibon, and Jazer and Nimrod, and Hashbon and Elaha, and Shabam and Nabo, and Baan, even the country for which YaHuWah smote before the congregation of Israel, is a land for cattle, and thy servants have cattle. Wherefore, said they, if we have found grace in thy sight, let this land be given unto thy servants for a possession, and bring us not over to Jordan. And MaShaH said unto the children of Gad, and to the children of Reuben, shall your brethren go to war, and ye shall sit here? And wherefore discourage ye the heart of the children of Israel from going over into the land which YaHuWah had given them? Thus did your fathers when I sent them from QaDaSh Bareh to see the land. They did the same. So he said they did the same thing. For when they went up unto the valley of Escol and saw the land, they discouraged the heart of the children of Israel, that they should not go into the land which YaHuWah had given them. And YaHuWah's anger was kindled that same time. And he sware, saying, surely none of the men that came up out of Mizraim, which is Egypt, that came up out of Mizraim from 20 years old and upward shall see the land which I swear unto Abraham and unto Isaac and unto Jacob, because they have not wholly followed me. So they have not wholly followed me, which means they have not made themselves set apart to follow me. Once again, separation happened because of disobedience. You have all this conversation, hey, let us stay in this land. We don't want to go over to Jordan. Now they're convincing people, yeah, let's just stay in there. And yet, that's not the direction they were given. They were disobedient, and their thoughts were not right, which then created these emotions, which then led to these actions. And now look what happened. YaHuWah says, because of those that are 20 and upward shall not go into the land. So how many of those 20-year-old and upward was husbands, brothers, sisters, wives? How many of those were that way? So how many of those men had husbands? I mean, how many of those men had wives? How many of those men were fathers? How many of those men will not see their families? Once again, separation happened because of disobedience. Oh, but look at this. But save, in verse 12, but save Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, which I'm probably butchering that, the Kenizzite, and Joshua, the son of Nun, for they have wholly followed YaHuWah, which means they what? They have set themselves apart to follow YaHuWah. So what you see here, a distinction in verse 12 was made in identifying the difference of Caleb and Joshua to the others. One, they did not set apart themselves to follow, and these two did. Woo. And YaHuWah's anger was kindled against Yisrael, and he made them wander in the wilderness 40 years, until all the generation that had done evil in thy sight, in the sight of YaHuWah, was consumed. So it took 40 years for all of those 20 and over not to enter in. But you have to remember, there's already a separation that was established prior to that, when MaShaH went up to receive the commandments, and he came down, and as he was getting closer, he was hearing this music and all this stuff going on, and people had already built a statue, an idol unto Moloch, and 3,000 was killed that day. Separation had happened because they were disobedient. 3,000 was killed that day. But families were separated too there. You also have to know that when it comes to YaHuWah and his order, and those that don't want to fulfill his order, there is a separation that will happen. Let's look at MaTaThiYaHuW verses 4, 18 through 22, constantly giving you more and more examples of the separation that happens and what it causes you to do when you choose to make that decision to follow YaHuWShuWA. Remember, you choose to make a decision to follow YaHuWShuWA. When you got baptized, you said, I choose to make a decision to follow YaHuWShuWA. I choose to make a decision to follow his order. And even though a lot of us, when we were baptized, was baptized in the name of Jesus, we still chose to follow the order. Even though we had the name wrong, the word didn't change. We still chose to follow the order. Let's look at MaTaThiYaHuW chapter 4, verses 18 through 22. And YaHuWShuWA, walking by the Sea of Galilee, saw two brethren, Simon called Peter, and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he said unto them, Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And they straightway left their nets and followed him. Even then, we see that they separate themselves from the work that they did, right, and followed YaHuWShuWA. They said, the work is not even important, so I'll separate myself from the work to follow YaHuWShuWA. But let's continue on. Verse 21. And going on from thence, he saw two brethren, James, which his name is YaQaB, and son of Zebedee, and John, which his name is YaHuWChaNaN, his brother, in the ship with Zebedee, son of Zebedee, in the ship with Zebedee, their father, mending their nets, and he called unto them. And they immediately left the ship and their father and followed him. So here's James, which is YaQaB, and John, which is YaHuWChaNaN, got up and left their father Zebedee to follow YaHuWShuWA. So why did he call Zebedee? But guess what? They got up straight away and left. Why? Because the beauty of what YaHuWShuWA was providing them was worth more than staying in a boat with their father. See, we already are beginning to see there are things that we have to do, a price that we have to pay, things that we have to give up. A separation has to occur in order to have the life we want in the end. See, you've heard the term, pay me now, pay me later, but you're going to pay me. The same thing here. Sacrifice now or sacrifice later, but you're going to have to sacrifice. You're either going to sacrifice now and separate yourself to get to the ShaMaH, or you're going to pay that sacrifice and go to the lake. But you're going to owe. It's going to cost you your life. So how are you going to give it? Are you going to give your life to the King now and receive your crown to hear him say these words, well done, my good and faithful servant? Or are you going to stand before him like the man who came to the wedding and didn't have their garment and couldn't say anything and be cast into the lake? Which one are you going to be? Let's look at more in this separation. I'm hoping you finding this beautiful. I'm hoping you beginning to see that, wow, what I've been taught is not how I should be living. I need to make a change in my life. And trust me, you have ACh and AChs, which is brothers and sisters around here to help you with. Even if you go to warriorsoftheruwach.com and you send us a message that says, I need prayer, I would like to get in touch with you, I would like to have a conversation. Look, we're going to set you up with ACh and AChs that have made the decision to separate themselves, that is willing to stand in prayer with you, that is willing to stand on the battlefield with you, that is willing to draw swords with you, that is willing to run into battle with you when you decide to make this separation. And we will bring you into the MaShaH, which is the ABaRiY word for family. And this is the family that we are bound together by blood. And I know you've heard the saying, blood is thicker than water. And yes, it is. But people use that to say family is better than everybody else, meaning your blood family. But let's take that to another way. If we want to talk about blood family, then are we not all covered by the blood of YaHuWShuWA that was shed upon the tree? So yes, let's use that same statement and say blood is thicker than water, or say blood is thicker than the world, or say that following the will of YaHuWah through his son YaHuWShuWA is more precious than following the world. Let's look at some separation here. Let's look at Exodus 12, verses 21 through 27. Then MaShaH, even though it says Moses, his name is MaShaH. Then MaShaH called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, draw out and take you a lamb according to your families, and kill the Passover. And ye shall take a bunch of hyssop, and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the two sides of the post with the blood that in the basin. And none of you shall go out of the door of his house until the morning. For YaHuWah will pass through to smite Mizraim. And when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the two sides of the post, then YaHuWah will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in. Now, I want you to understand, I wanted to identify something in 23, that he says, when he seeth the blood of the lintel and the two sides of the post. What he is saying is, once I have seen your obedience, once I have seen you have made the decision to separate, because when you put that blood on the lintel and on the post, you said, I want to be separated so that that angel of death passes over me, so that the wrath of YaHuWah passes over me because I'm being obedient. That is what it's describing here. It says, will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your house and smite you. So if you didn't want to be smit, you got to be obedient. And ye shall observe this thing for the ordinances to thee and to thy sons forever. That's verse 24. Let's go to 25. And it shall come to pass it shall come to pass when ye become to the land which YaHuWah will give you, according as he hath promised, that ye shall keep this service. And it shall come to pass when your children shall say unto you, what mean by this service? What is mean by this? The blood on the lintel and on the post. Verse 27 says, that ye shall say, it is the sacrifice of YaHuWah's Passover, who passes over the houses of the children of Israel in Mizraim, when he smote the Mizraims, which is the Egyptians, and delivered our houses, and the people bowed their head and worship. Here's one of the things I want you to see what happened here. One man's decision suffered his kingdom. Pharaoh's decision to open his mouth and said, the death of the firstborn shall happen again unto the children of Israel, suffered his kingdom. husbands, fathers, you have to understand the decisions of what you make, the responsibility that you have. If you don't focus on making the righteous decisions according to the will of Yahuwah Elohim through his son YaHuWShuWa, will suffer your family. If we saw in scripture earlier, we got into these conditions of worshiping Baal, which is the word Lord. So when you hear the word Lord, that is the word Baal. As the scripture says, your forefathers have taught you to forget my name for Baal. So those are in the past that was head over you. Those fathers of those fathers of those fathers caused you to forget my name in disobedience. And now we suffer because of the decisions they made. And you got to remember, Yahushua said, even will suffer the 3 and 4 generations. Fathers, husbands, take this seriously. The decisions you make, what you allow to enter into your ears, what you allow your eyes to see will cause your thoughts to come about, that then will generate the emotion, that will then be shown in actions that can be detrimental to your family. So every thought that comes to you, take it captive. Bring it unto Yahuwah. It said first what? Resist temptation. So when those thoughts come into you that is not of Yahuwah Elohim, resist those thoughts. It says, then draw nigh to me. Means come near to me. Sometimes that means come to me in praise. That means come to me in prayer. And then it said, then it will flee. But take those thoughts, men, those who are husbands, those who are fathers, and to those who are watching this that will become future husbands and future fathers. Do it now. Take your thoughts captive now. Separate yourself now. So that when you look for your bride, you already know who you're looking for. And then you'll be able to know. And then you'll be able to get that bride, that lioness, that virtuous woman to come under you that is already willing to follow that. And my akuts, my sisters who will be wives and mothers someday. Be ye also separated in your thoughts. Be careful about what enters into your eyes, what you see or what you hear. Because those themselves will cause your thoughts to then generate emotions that will bring about your actions. But if you keep yourself focused now and you keep yourself separated, now you'll know that the man that you need to have is one that has already kept himself separated. And I want you to focus on this. Pass over versus not passed over. Those that were not passed over came about because they were disobedient and because of the decision of one man. But here's the beauty of that. Let's balance that. Because of the decision of one man to put himself on the tree, now gave us what the path back to the ShaMaH. So even the decisions of the one man can lead you to glory and to victory. The decision of one man can lead your family, can set your family up for the rest of their lives to enter into the straight gates, to enter into the ShaMaH, to be able to look upon YaHuWShuWa and say, well done, my good faithful servant. They will be hear him. They will be able to hear him say those exact words to them because you, husbands and fathers, have stated that, have set that up, have made sure that your family lives. Because as YaHuWShuWa said, ask for me and my family, because Joshua is his name. Ask for me and my family. We shall follow Yahuwah Elohim. We shall serve Yahuwah Elohim. Those are decisions you must make. The war is real for the battle of the souls. And that war is right in front of us. Oh, those who have eyes, let them see. And those who have ears, let them hear. Which this requires soldiers who are willing to give it all. This requires soldiers who are willing to separate themselves. See, as I was in the military, there's a difference between soldiers and civilians. See, we never asked civilians to give their lives. That was our job as a soldier, is to protect their lives. We made a decision to be separated from them, to give our lives if it was asked of us. This is what our King YaHuWShuWA is saying now. Be ye separate, because I will ask for your life of you. Why? He led by example because his life was asked of him. This is why YaHuWShuWA was sent. He was sent to separate the wheat from the tares. As soldiers, he uses us to do that. This is also where we begin from those who want to be separated versus those who don't want to be separated because they love the world, that lie, more than the word. That now begins to separate the pretenders from the contenders. Come on now. You want to be a pretender or you want to be a contender? Which one you want to be? Let's look at YaHuWH, Jeremiah, YaHuWH, chapter 23, verses 3 through 5. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries whither I have driven them, and will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful and increase. So when we look at Jeremiah, who's stated, when you look at what has happened, says, I will bring them together because I've driven them out. There was already a separation that had happened. There was something that occurred that causes them to be separated. Verse 4, and I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them. And they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, saith YaHuWah. Behold, the days come, saith YaHuWah, that I will raise unto Dawid, which it says David, but it's Dawid. I will raise unto Dawid a righteous branch. That is YaHuWShuWA right there. Remember, he is the righteous branch. Why? Because what he's saying is, at some point when you go about and it talks about we will be grafted unto the branch. Both Yahudims and Gentiles shall be grafted unto the branch, which then makes us all belong to the tribe of Israel. You got to understand that, because that then balances out what he told Abraham. I will make you a father of many nations. Verse 5, behold, I'm going to read that again. Behold, the days come, saith YaHuWah, that I will appear unto Dawid, a righteous branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. This is what he's talking about, judgment, H49:41. The one I like to pull out, and you can read that because there's a lot of things in there. The ones I want to make focus to is the act of deciding a case and the sentence or the decision of judgment. So if we read that, it says, shall reign and prosper and shall execute a decision, deciding on a case. Because remember, we're going to go before the king, and every one of us is going to appear in the court, and every one of us is going to have a decision made on the case. And our case is our lives. Our case is how we decide to be separated. So when we went to make the case, when that Malach brings that case above him, is it going to be the folder is going to be stacked so high in the separations that the Malach said, look, I need a couple of wheelbarrows, I need a couple of dollies to bring all of these in because this is so high? Or is it the fact that your disobedience is going to be so high that now they say, oh, King, there's no use of us wheeling this in because there's so much here. Send them to the lake. There's so much against them that they aren't even worthy. And let's look at justice. The one thing when you look at justice, H6666, for the word justice, I love the fact when it says righteousness and truthfulness. So it says shall execute, shall decide the case, and shall make a decision on our sentence based on the righteousness and the truthfulness in the earth. Where's that truthfulness coming from? The truthfulness is coming by the word. But the other part for justice is vindication and salvation. So when you look at that, let's go back to that. And it says, and shall execute justice upon the earth, and shall bring salvation upon the earth, and shall vindicate upon the earth, shall bring vindication upon the earth. So when you are separated, and then you got to deal with persecution and people coming against you because you want to be separated, don't worry, vindication is happening. Vindication is coming. Let's read MaTaThiYaHuW 24, 36 through 44. I'm beginning to wrap up here soon, but let's look at this. But of that day, in verse 36 of chapter 24, MaTaThiYaHuW, Matthew, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the Malachs of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. We're talking about the second coming of the Son of Man. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving into marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. You got to also understand, right, it took Noah 40 years to put that ark together. How much persecution, how much talking that he had to deal with. People probably calls him crazy and cuckoo. Probably looked at his sons and says, y'all following that crazy father of yours? Why are y'all doing that? Ain't no flood coming. And they're going by their way, still living in sin, still living the way they want, not changing their mind, not deciding to separate, not deciding to do any of that. They continue down their merry way until the waters came. Now, okay, no, I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to behave. That's too late then. That's what it says. When he returns, it's going to be too late. You can't do it then. You should have already done it. You should have already made the decision to separate. Verse 39, and knew not until the flood came and took them away, so shall also coming of the Son of Man be. Verse 40, then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken and the other left. This sounds like separation to me, people. You got to understand, he comes to separate. Two in the field, one will be left. Two grinding at the mill, one will be left. Doesn't this sound like separation? So where do you get the fact that he's not separated? Where do people get the fact of making a statement that he's not going to decide to separate? Where do people get the fact of saying that he won't separate family? Where did they get that? And remember I read earlier, who turns the truth of Elohim into a lie? Who turns the truth of Yahuwah Elohim into a lie? Man does that. By workings of the hands of the adversary who behind manipulating them and wheeling them like puppets. Because they decided they didn't want to be separated. So when you didn't decide to be separated, it is easy for the adversary to come attach strings to you and manipulate you like puppets. When the scripture says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but we wrestle against principalities of wickedness and high places. Those are the puppeteering that goes on. Let's look at verse 42. Watch therefore, for ye know not the hour your master doth come, but know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour that ye think not the Son of Man cometh. Be ready, be ye separated. Husbands, fathers, be watchful of your home. Watch it, protect it. Make sure your doors are locked. Make sure your spiritual doors are locked, that the enemy can't come in. Watch out for your children. Watch out for your wives. Pray over them when you go to bed at night. Walk your house when you go to bed at night. Let them know that you got them covered. Because remember, you are the strong man. And unless the strong man be bound, then the family cannot be captive. So remain that strong man. Separate yourself. And if those in your family doesn't want to follow the separation, then deuces. Let them go. Separate yourself. Walk away from them. The scripture says, what? If the eye offend thee, pluck it out. Right? Isn't it better to enter into the kingdom minus one eye than a whole body burning in the lake? Separate. But let's talk about the ultimate separation. Let's bring this home. Let's close this out. Let's talk about the ultimate separation. MaTaThiYaHuW, Matthew verse 27. I'm going to go verses 39 through 42. When YaHuWShuWA was hung on that tree. Verse 39. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads, and saying, and you can see this because people do that. Thou that destroyest the temple and builded it 3 days, save thyself, and if thou be the son of Elohim, come down from that tree. You know they be shaking their head. People will do that today. Well, if you all that, then why don't you do that if you so bad? You can hear that going on. But we should be thankful that he didn't listen. Because when they came to capture him, and Kafa took his sword and cut that soldier's ear off that came with him, he said, do you not know that I have 72,000 Malachs at my disposal? I have 6 legions at my disposal. It's because if he wanted to, he could have called them right then and wiped us all out. Because remember, one Malach can take 185,000 in a single night and wipe them out. 185,000 by themselves. So we better be thankful that he humbled himself and that his mind was right, which means his emotions was right, which means his actions was right, because he stood upon that tree when he could have came down and said, let's start over. Come on now, we ought to be happy about that. Verse 41, likewise also the chief priests mocking him with the scribes and the elders and told, they said, come on now, you see them walking by, shaking their head, look at you. Right, verse 42, he saved others, himself he cannot save. And if he be the king of Israel, let him come down from the tree and we will believe him. When they just already asked him to say, take the doubt away that we believe you. And he's already said, you're not none of his, because my sheep, I know me, they know my voice, and I know them. So the ones that was walking by here, look, I don't even know you. That's why you don't even know who I am. That's why you mocking me on this tree. Let's go to verse 46 of the same chapter of MaTaThiYaHuW, Matthew 27 of the same chapter. And this is YaHuWShuWa's final hour. And he said, and about the 9th hour, YaHuWShuWa cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is saying, what people will say in the scripture is that, hold on one second, please. That is said in the scriptures. Sorry about that recording. My phone went low. Didn't turn up the power, so give me a second here. Sorry about that. But Matthew 27, verse 46. YaHuWShuWa's final hour, he talked about that, but it said, that is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? But what YaHuWShuWa was really saying is, all, MaShaH, which is mighty one, why leave me? At this moment, YaHuWShuWa felt alone. This was the ultimate separation. Because his father could not look upon sin, he had to separate himself from his son. him and his father ain't never been separated. And now he truly had to be separated his father because he became sin for all mankind. But here's one of the things. We got to make a statement, men and women who are over their own household, until you are brought the lion, the men that YaHuWah has in store for you. YaHuWShuWA or Joshua 24:15. And if it seem evil unto you that serve YaHuWah, choose you this day whom ye will serve, whether the Elohim which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the Elohim of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we shall serve YaHuWah. See, man, that's the statement we must make. Excuse me. As for me and my house, we shall serve YaHuWah Elohim. That's going to cause us to make decisions. That's going to bring about separation that will then in turn cause people to walk out of our lives, or causes us to walk out of other people's lives. But we have to be willing to do that. So this is what we must do. We are responsible men for the condition of our home. Teach them this truth and hold them accountable. Hold everyone in your household accountable to live according to the will of YaHuWah Elohim. And if they don't want to live according to the will of YaHuWah Elohim, you have to remove them from your camp. That is your responsibility. See, Joshua was very clear. He basically was saying, I do not care what you think. And you can do what you want, but I'm responsible for my family. Let me leave you with something as I close up. Thank you, YaHuWah Elohim, through your son, Yahushua HaMashiach, for giving me the breath that I have to bring you this. First YaHuWChaNaN, 2nd chapter, verses 15 through 17. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Means the lie, because remember, this is the lie. For all, verses 16, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of Elohim abideth forever. See, we are to be in the world to help gather the harvest, but not be of it. Is this not why we came to YaHuWShuWA in the first place? Remember, I talked about this right at the beginning. Is this not why we came to YaHuWShuWA in the first place? To be ye separated? To say I no longer want to follow my own path, that I don't want to follow my own will, that I don't like the decisions that I make, because every time I make my decisions, it takes me into a place that I don't want to be. I want to be under your order. Isn't that the decision we made? We accepted YaHuWShuWA in our lives? Even when we under that false name Jesus, we still made the same decision. But now that we know the true name, we still hold to that same decision, to be separated. I hope YaHuWShuWA has dealt with you through this. Because let me tell you, as I was reading this, he was dealing with me, saying, Martin, there's still some separation that you still need to make. And he's bringing them back to my mind so that I may take care of them. Hopefully this has been a baraka unto you. And I know this may have stung a little bit, but guess what? Be thankful that he chastises us, because he says, those who I chastise, I still love. Those who I chastise, I still have hope for. So be thankful that this chastisement come around. But remember, if you're feeling alone, and you want to make this separation, and you need support, go to Warriors of the Ruwach. Send us an email. There's a place where you can send us an email. Tell us the needs you have. We're going to hook you up with people that are be willing to pray with you, talk with you, and then help you walk through this. And then if you really want to make this decision and you really want to do this, we'll bring you into the MaShaH, where we can communicate with you on a regular basis so that we'll be able to help you through this journey, right? Many members, one body. We are all this body. We all want the body to make it in. Make that decision today to separate yourself. Make that decision today to follow YaHuWah Elohim. And for those that have not decided to accept him yet, Make that decision today to follow after YaHuWShuWA HaMashiach. Make that decision today to give your life for him. You do not need water to do that. Because if you look at the scripture, the Ruwach came upon people. The QaDaSh Ruwach came upon people without them being dipped in water. So you can make that decision today to follow after the King. Make that decision today. And if you have accepted YaHuWShuWA in your life, but yet you said it was Jesus, that's okay. Now you have the true name. Now make a decision that I want to separate myself and pray and say, ABaRiY through your son YaHuWShuWA HaMashiach. Bring those things to my mind. Help me to recognize those things which I must separate myself from. But you can recognize that by getting in the word. Because he said he loves hearers and doers of the word. And faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Yahuwah Elohim. Because it said without faith it is impossible to please him, Yahuwah said. So if you're not getting in the word, then you can't generate your faith. Your faith cannot be increased. And if you don't have faith, then it's impossible to please him. So get into this word. Increase thy faith and please Yahuwah. Because when you please YaHuWShuWA, you please Yahuwah. This is Martin Beverly with Warriors of the Ruwach. Thank you for giving me this time to be with you. I thank Yahuwah for giving me the breath in my body to deliver this message unto you. I love you all very much. I am concerned about the conditions of your life. Make sure we strive to be separated. Let's help each other. Iron sharpens iron. So let us grind against one another, sharpening our blades against one another, having conversation with one another, having fellowship with one another, so that we can walk this journey together and hold people up. Because even when MaShaH was up on the hill, he needed help holding his hands up because they was weakening. Sometimes we need that help. And help is out there. Just ask for it. Love you, pray for you, until we all come together, until we meet him in the sky, when YaHuWShuWA cracks the sky and the graves are open from those that have already died in him, and those that are still alive shall meet him up in the air. Let us hold strong. Let us pray for one another. Love you so much. Be strong, be peaceful, be in shalom, and be ready for the fight. Fellow soldier, whether you are a man or a woman, fellow soldier that follows Yahuwah and YaHuWShuWA, it is my honor to stand by you, and it will be my honor to die next to you. Shalom and AHAB, which means love in ABaRiY. Great evening.